morning, folks. Give me a second to set up. I'm kind of a show me kind of guy. Perfect. Thank you for your patience. Thank you. Well, I'm happy to be here. My name is Lorenz Crespo, and I'm actively getting treated here at at Mayo with the chemo and also with the GI department. And like many here, this disease just came out of nowhere. You know, I was just cruising through life, enjoying what I do best, being with family, friends, or special interests. And what I'm going to talk about today is, and excuse my voice, I had chemo last week, so I'm just a little fatigued and working through some brain fog, so bear with me. I just want to help you. I just want to share with you how creativity helped me transition what I'm dealing with through treatment. Approximately 29 months ago, I wasn't feeling quite right. And my gut feeling said, can you all hear me by the way? If not, just give me a thumbs up. My gut feeling said, something just isn't right. And you know, I just felt it in my gut. Was out to dinner one night with some friends. And I said, well, let me just write out the story. Maybe I have a stomach virus or something like that. And at that point, you know, I just kind of waited 24, 48 hours and went to the emergency department. And, you know, one of the first course of action is they do the blood test. And the emergency doctor come up to me and said, well, Mr. Crespo, you came to the right spot at the right time. Your liver enzymes are up. Your biliary rubins, you know, they're elevated too. So let's just take this to another step. And I said, okay, and not understanding, you know, they did some follow-up tests and they did an ERCP. And the ERCP just had stated that it appeared that your biliary, you know, they had collapsed. And what was happening was stuff was just backing up into the liver. And that's why you're feeling this. And I still, at that point, had not processed the uncertainty of what my body was going through, but it was going through something. And at that point, you know, a lot of fear started settling in because, you know, when you get diagnosed, there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of moments that, wow, I've not experienced this before, but now it's happening and the reality is here. And I was transferred because I was at a military medical center in the Las Vegas area, and they say, well, we can only take you so far due to our capabilities. And then I proceeded to get transferred to, you know, one of the city hospitals. And, you know, of course I was there for a good 28 days as they were figuring things out. And they did another RCP and, you know, they put stents in. And oh, by the way, along the way, my pancreas decided, you know, it wasn't having enough with what was just happening with the liver. And it also was affected. So here I was dealing with one organ and another organ, but before we could get to this particular issue, we had to ensure that, we had control with the pancreas. So I was just dealing with it. And with that time, I had lost about 20, 25 pounds. And I was just going with the flow. But to transition what's up in front of me, prior to this, I retired in 2018. I served between active duty and as a civilian employee, 37 years with the Department of Defense. And it was a very, very rewarding career that took me, my family around the world. It gave us a beautiful lifestyle. We experienced different cultures and everything that it entailed, and we were very open to it. And life was, and still is, good to me. Retired 2018. There was a point where I said, well, I just want to enjoy life in the upright position. Make the most of what I have. I've worked hard my entire life. And from there, I got through the honey to-do list. And then COVID hit. And, like a lot of us, we had to alter our lifestyle. So what I decided to do is let me go outdoors, go to city parks, and just make the most of it, keep a safe distance. And then along the way, I went to parks with ponds, and I noticed some beautiful creatures with birds. And I fell in love with birds in my youth. One day I took a ride to Jones Beach on Long Island, and I saw this white, snowy owl, and it just stopped me in my tracks. And from there, it kind of lit the fire. But you know how life gets in the way and your priorities change, so that took a back seat. Family came, jobs came, and so you just work through all that, and then when you retire, you got a lot of time on your hands. So, while I'm walking through the parks, I made this connection. Wow, I'd like to photograph what I have seen today. And so I picked up my camera, because I've been a camera buff since I was a young child, and I went out and started photographing. And this journey just opened up a whole new world. What I saw was 4 seasons come and go, and what came in those seasons through birds. It's amazing. You could find Arctic terns that fly 6,000 miles from the Arctic south to the Antarctic. You can watch owls as they're hunting, come the early morning, and it just fascinated me. It created a passion within. And I just went through what I could do, and every day I would get up before the sunrise, because that's when these animals are the most active, and I would document them in their environment, just through patience, observing, listening. So all my senses were in tune. And then I could sit. And like I said, came out of nowhere, very unexpected. And it was heartbreaking that I couldn't do what I love doing, spending quality time with either my family or going out on my own, enjoying what gave me pleasure. But I made a choice early. I said, I'm going to deal with this head on. And dealing with that head on meant I either had 2 options. I could lay in my bed, feel sorry and whine or whatever came into my mind, or just live life to whatever capacity I could. And I chose the latter. And even though my disease caused me to adapt, I took it head on. My passion for birding never died. I took it to another dimension. And I got behind what started out as little sketches. And I worked my way into pen and ink. And then I said, no, I want a little more life, a little more, something I can grasp onto that's actually what these species, different species are all about. And I took it on. And to today, I'm still learning. I'm growth in process with the processes. Each of my pictures, and there's a bunch out in the lobby area, have a little bit of something different as I grow. And I learned about texture, dimension, and mood through shadows, midtones, highlights, and how small subtleties sometimes can bring out, something that really enhances a picture. And then, throughout this whole ordeal, I'm in the Mayo Clinic. And one thing I love about Mayo is how, what we talked about, the collaborations between, the different departments and the attention to detail. So as you walk these hallways of Mayo, I look to my left, look to my right, and I saw some beautiful works of art. And I said, wow. And I'd read the bios there. And there were artists, people of different walks of life, what inspired. And I said, wow. That rekindled that fire. Gave me a little motive to keep going. So down on the bottom, there was contact information for the Humanities Department that's located at the Scottsdale campus. And I contacted the director. And I said, I'd like to be part of this longer art process. And they told me, well, this is what you need to do. We'll present in front of a board, and we'll let you know. I said, thank you very much for your consideration. And lo and behold, a few weeks later, I was in, so to speak. So, it just kind of kept me going. I said, oh. And the particular exhibit I named there was birds in and around Mayo. We talked about these beautiful gardens out here. And I come in at 6 in the morning, and there's this landscaper out there manicuring and, just trimming and ensuring that everything looks beautiful. And if you walk around here, the vegetation out there is very unique to this environment. And secondly, Phoenix, well, I was in between Phoenix and Las Vegas with my birding, is on the eastern side of the Pacific Flyway. So throughout the year, you're going to get different species that come through. Right now we have the ducks and the waterfowl that come from the north that are in the Phoenix area. And if you go southeast of here, you see the sandhill cranes, thousands of them that come in. In a few weeks, they'll be leaving. And then a whole new set of species will be coming in. So, like I said, it just gave me that opportunity to kind of experience what life is all about and how it flows. And it's bigger than me and you. And it's been really an incredible experience. But I just was not going to let cancer define who I am. Thank you. And I just had to keep going. And I encourage anybody that's a patient out here, keep going. You know, it doesn't have to be what I do. But if you find joy in gardening, cooking, playing with those grandbabies, having an experience with your family, that joy offers a lot of strength. And that's what we need on top of the clinical trials, on top of the treatment, on top of the nutrition. You need that inner flame to keep it going. And I encourage each and one of you to dig deep, because it's important. We are more than a tumor. We are human beings. And my hats go off to the doctors and to the researchers and to that person, if you're in the hospital, brings you a meal, or whoever is involved in this process, for being in it for the right reasons. But it had helped, my creativity has helped me stay connected and be in the now. And that's very important. I can't sit and say, oh, poor me, I wonder what happened. But, you know, it was just circumstances I was dealt with. And the process of drawing has been very therapeutic. And the professionals that I have dealt with have sat and listened to me. I wasn't that 5-minute window. Okay, you got any questions? Oh, thank you very much, and out the door. No. I love the Mayo way, and I love what's happening in and around this community. And I just, like I said, I just invite others to look for that momentary joy. Now, there's one thing I want you to take away, is hold on to what makes you be you. There are many obstacles in there with a disease, any disease, whether it's liver disease, heart disease, whatever. But just keep fighting. And once again, I'd like to give thanks to the time that you've given me, sir. And also Dr. Borad and the folks in the GI department. And I came here today to learn, listen, and also share. And I encourage each and one of you, whether you're in research, whether you're a caregiver, whether you're a medical professional, do what you do with gratitude. Pay it forward. Because as we all know, we came in with nothing, and guess what? We're leaving with nothing. And whatever legacy you leave behind,